3, 2, 1. Go. Hello.
Once more, we're doing the thing.
We're doing the thing again.
With the stuff. Got our rocks on the table.
And there's some lightning outside.
There is. Hydration's important. And we're here to talk about some wompy shit. The conspiracies of the world.
There's lots of wompy shit.
There's lots of wompy conspiracy shit going on.
Anybody who's been watching this continuously will probably see and understand that there's pretty much an endless amount of wompy shit.
Yeah, that's all we're actually getting anymore is just wompy shit.
Just straight wompy shit.
You remember the days when politics were like, oh yeah, there's a few conspiracies here and there, like this guy did this thing, this guy is actually on payroll for these guys, but it's like politics, meh. You know, now literally everything's a conspiracy. The Democrat side have their conspiracies about the Republicans have their conspiracies about the Democrats. I miss the good old days when it was like, it was us weirdos. And we were like, we've got our conspiracy theories about cool shit. Yeah. And now everybody is like, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist.
Yes.
It's like, you done ruined it for everybody, people.
People always ruin it for other people.
I do, kind of. It started with the whole... When I think it became mainstream to, like, completely wipe conspiracy theories off the map when Trump started being like, oh, yeah, conspiracy theories. These things are happening. But there was some good golden days where it was like you could do the research, you could put all the pieces together, and you could be like, weird. This is really interesting. Mm-hmm. Now, if you even talk about something that isn't from one person's side of the spectrum of politics, you're immediately like, oh, you must be a Trump supporter. Oh, that's a, I don't know, Republican conspiracy theory, so you're not a Democrat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's like a
you used to not have to be a politically affiliated to believe conspiracy theories.
Yeah. This is true. But now the conspiracy is only on one side of the political party. Or, you know,
I don't think that's true.
It's on one of the wings. Well, no, I mean like the
yeah. What do you mean?
In the brains of people, they're like, if you have this idea of a conspiracy theory, you must be on the other side.
Oh, I guess that's
because there's no way that my side would be doing anything wrong, would there?
I see. I think that's coming from your slightly Republican or more right views, because I do think that there's a lot of like. There's conspiracies on both sides. Like, the Republicans believe that there's this whole slew of, like, what do you call them? Like, deep state people in the Democratic Party. And granted, I do believe that's the case for a lot of it. But the Democrats over here believing that the QAnon conspiracy is, like, or like the pedogate stuff where people are like, save the children. They're like, that's a conspiracy theory just to like take attention away from the things that actually matter. And it's like both sides now have conspiracy theories about the other
side. That's what I was saying.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
I thought, never mind.
Yeah, no, I wasn't like, oh, like the Republicans are. There's no conspiracies going on the Republican side.
There's conspiracies everywhere. Yeah. Everything is dangerous.
Maybe my sarcasm wasn't blatant enough.
Or maybe I'm an idiot. Both could be true at the same time.
Both could be true at the same time.
But yes. So, the things we wanted to talk about.
Yeah. So, I think the primary stuff that we wanted to talk about was the DNC thing.
Yeah. Which you watched a lot of the DNC coverage.
I watched some of it, but I watched
more than me.
I watched it through a filter because I watched Steven Crowder watch it, like in a live stream, like him and his Mug Club peeps were just hanging out watching the second or third night of the DNC stuff, and I watched it through him.
Okay,
so it was very much filtered through. A lot of, let's say, right-wing humor, like laughing at them, just being like, look at what they're doing. But I wasn't sitting there like open-minded, like, let me see. I was very biased going into watching the DNC.
But so. I feel like you got at least some of the nuggets you had been sharing with me about how the DNC actually was going about doing it. Made it seem very fake.
Incredibly, yes.
So just give anybody who hasn't tuned in at all to it some sort of perspective. Like, what did the DNC do? The typical convention where people all show up and they're like waiting to listen to the speeches to nominate their presidential candidate.
Okay, so the first thing I should probably point out is the fact that there was like, I think, a peak of like maybe 10,000 people on their actual like the actual news live stream that was streaming it. Like, it was like max 10,000 people were watching it. Like, nobody was watching it.
10,000 people, that's it?
That's it. Like 10,000 people. Like, nobody gave a shit about it. As for the actual network numbers, I'm not sure what they were, but it was pretty poor ratings. Like, very, very poor.
I can believe that.
Almost nobody watched it, which makes you think, like, so this is the weird part of everything that's going on right now. I'm gonna like kind of go off on a tangent for a moment. It seems like a lot of people on the left are at this point where they don't understand that what they're doing is political. Like, does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, where a lot of especially the very, very far left people, the super progressive people that are the social justice warrior types, the ones that are like all in on Black Lives Matter, don't question it. All in on masks for coronavirus, don't question it. All in on
transgender rights.
Transgender rights, like the whole slew of everything, right?
Without any bit of like,
with not even
like some sort of balance. Like, it's good up to this point and it gets bad beyond that. Like, I get what you're saying.
Right. So basically all of the people that are very far in, I think they have forgotten that what they're doing is political, because it's no longer like they're trying to holy ball sacks, it is fucking okay. Yeah, we're good. It's just raining real hard outside all of a sudden, so that was my bad. Hopefully we don't like get
cut off in the middle of this before we can save it.
No power or something.
We'll find out.
Anyway, like, this is a very roundabout way of me trying to make a point.
I get what you're saying though, because I've seen this pop up a lot where people aren't arguing necessarily for the Democrats anymore. They're not like, the Democrats are right in their political ideology. They're saying you have to fight on the side of people who have souls, people who are fighting for the good of all, people who love one another. And it's like, I don't know if you're on that side. What the fuck? Okay, well, let's just keep on going.
Yeah, we're just gonna keep on going. I don't know if you guys heard that, but
we've been having some weird.
I think it's
shit
rain
happening
on our fireplace is what's happening, and we're hearing the pounding of the rain.
That makes
our
sense.
Our mics are just sensitive. But anyway, okay, we can keep going on this. But yeah, what I'm thinking, like, in this realm, is that I think these people have kind of lost touch with the political part. I think that
they've confused it for morals.
Right, exactly. That it's like they think that what they're doing is like morally correct and morally right, and the people on the other side are just completely morally inferior. Like, they have no heart, they have no empathy, they don't know what's going on, and that's not the case. Like, that is so far from the truth. Like, the difference is the
way of thinking.
The way of thinking is okay, sure, say you have somebody that needs help. All right, we can either just be like, hey, you need food? Here's food, right? That's Democrat thinking. Or you need money? Here's money, not necessarily food. And Republican side of thinking would be like,
here's a job.
Yeah, here's a job, or here's an opportunity to make those things. Right,
yeah, like in a very, very layman's terms.
That's like as simple as you can break it down.
Right, and like both have value and both have a place in the world.
Yes,
but neither one of them is completely right. You don't fix the world by making sure, like going around being like, "Hey, homeless person, here's a job." Maybe that person doesn't need a job. Maybe they just need food for this one moment.
Right,
and in that case, you would need the other person.
Yeah, right, exactly, and that's that's where I think a lot of people are missing the boat on this whole fucking thing.
Well, I think Trump was really like the start of it. Not necessarily that it's him, but it's what he has been like painted to represent. Like the man is an idiot. I do not like this guy. I've never liked this guy. I think he's an absolute tool. But he's been painted into a way where he is literally the Antichrist or something like that. Where if you support Trump, then all of your morals have faded away and you don't have anything left in you that's good. And it's like that. That's just such a
disingenuous.
It's such a narrow view of things. Like nothing is ever black and white. It's all shades of gray. But it seems like anybody who is on the Democrat spectrum really, they have to view Trump like this in order to justify the views that they're following and the people they're voting for.
Right. Exactly. And that's what has me so very grasped by the political landscape right now, because it's like there is such a heavy polarization on both sides that I think people on both sides are missing the utility in speaking to each other about these things. Like they're missing it, because it's like there's two ways of, and we could go about this shit forever. I'm going to keep going on tangents. Because,
do it. We got time.
Because there's one thing that I see a lot is like, oh, what's with the two-party system, right? Like, why the two-party system? This is dumb. This is bullshit. Like, we should have more options. And it's like, okay, well, the reason why it ended up being a two-party system is because generally there are two ways of doing things. Like, there's the progressive way and there's the conservative way to do something. Like, when you're looking at hierarchies and you're looking at systems and how to manage them and function within them, that's, all right, do we conserve what we're doing or do we change what we're doing? Which is going to serve us? Like, do we have to pay attention to the things that are happening on the ground right now, or do we look a little bit into the future? It's like,
both.
And so it's like, that's the primary difference between the two parties, right? It's like, conserve the structure so things don't devolve into chaotic fucking hell like they are right now. Let's say that, because that's the liberal side of badness, if you want. Or you look at the other side and it's like, okay, if we don't change and we don't like help people that get disenfranchised, and we don't try to like, as time moves forward, the world changes, which means our structure needs to change, our hierarchy needs to change. There's where progressive ideas come in. You know, you have to be creative, you have to come up with new ways to help people, you have to come up with new things, right? Because if you don't, on the Republican side, you get white supremacists, you get Nazis, you get like basically racial superiority, you know, like it's not even necessarily racial, but like class superiority.
Yeah,
or in some
superiority
way.
complex is based in past ways of thinking. Hey,
correct.
Do you remember when presidential candidates, when they would have their running mate be from the opposite party? What the fuck happened to that?
Was that actually a thing?
That was fully a thing.
They did that.
That was a thing that used to happen.
I always thought that was like a weird utopian pipe dream.
No, that's happened before.
Yeah?
That I am 95% certain that has happened in recent past. I'm pretty sure it stopped being a thing when Obama came in and brought in Hillary, and then it was like two Democrats together.
Really?
Yeah. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe I'm
wrong.
Imagining like a utopia. I'm going to have to research this shit.
I think you're wrong on that one. Because you think of...
like, I don't know who Clinton's running mate was.
Yeah, and before that it was Bush Sr.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think...
Who was Bush Jr.'s running mate?
Shit.
Oh, Cheney. He was not a Democrat.
Dick Cheney.
Yeah. He was not a Democrat.
Yeah.
I believe that at some point
maybe at some point in
thing.
time. I've always thought about maybe that's how it should be.
Yeah.
But
we need them both in office, and then now we're going to that one idea that we've espoused before, where it's like we need two people who are from differing parties, and then the next term they switch.
Yeah.
And the next term they switch.
Yeah.
And then like that sort of shit.
Yeah.
And just have like real leaders in office who balance each other.
Right. But the problem here is not only that like people that are in charge of like the Democratic and Republican parties they're not even in the fucking ballpark of what they should be doing anymore. Like it's no longer like, oh, are we progressive or are we conservative? It's more like we're going to make sure that the other side doesn't get what they want by any means necessary, even if it goes against our morals and values, like our own morals and values.
I feel like that shifted in our lifetime.
Like in the past decade.
There was something I'd come across in my research about the DNC speakers. Now, first off, I think it's very odd that all of the things that were done in DNC were pre-recorded.
Yes.
That's super disingenuous. We don't need that shit happening. Like, I don't give a flying fuck about like the corona stuff. You don't need to have the stadium filled. Have them live recorded. Like,
right.
That's a responsibility thing. You need to be able to verify that they can do these things. And if you really don't believe that Biden is like fucked up, again, I hate Trump. I hate them both. If you don't think Biden's fucked up, this is just another marker against him. Like, oh, they pre-recorded his speech. And then there's also all these reports coming out about how Biden actually plagiarized his entire speech from like 2 or 3 other sources. Yeah. And none of it is like, some of it's plagiarized from his previous work, some of it's plagiarized from a Canadian prime minister that had passed or something like that.
Yeah.
But the whole DNC shit was all weird and wompy. But the thing that really got me, in my research, I came across that there was a speaker, a highly regarded speaker that was on, who had served like 12 or 15 years in prison for her and a gang of people kidnapped and then tortured to death someone that had fucked them out of money. Yeah, what? I know. I was trying to find it on my phone, but it might have been erased from my saves.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like the 17th person to speak at the DNC or something like that. I'll have to look at the names and try to put it in the description because I know I saw that. I spent a long time looking at it. I can't remember. I know it was a she. I know that she served her time and that she was exonerated because she said she was barely involved, even though she was sleeping in another room when the guy actually died from what they had done to him. But they did some fucked up shit to him.
Okay, yeah.
Without it in front of me, I don't want to just like throw stuff out there. But there was some of the worst shit I've read that people have done to things.
Okay, yeah. This goes back,
and this is a DNC speaker,
right? Exactly. This goes back into like, let's say this: there is manipulation happening on both sides of the political spectrum. There absolutely is manipulation. There are bad players on both sides. And me personally, I don't think that Trump is one of them. I don't think that he's a bad player.
I don't think Trump is smart enough to be a bad player. All of the things that Trump does, I think he's honestly...
He's giving it his best shot.
He might be just like a dumb cow, where it's just like walking around and it's like, I don't like this fence. And you're like, look at that dumb cow.
Yeah.
But then the cow goes through the fence. You're like, well, I mean, the cow accomplished what it was supposed to do. It's all cut to shit and it looks really stupid, but
right.
Did it.
Let's say this. I think that he has the right ideas. I think that a lot of the policy that he's coming up with is ultimately beneficial for our country, and the mass of the population and the broader world.
Maybe in that conservative kind of scope where you're looking so far out that you can't see the things in front of us, sort of stuff. Because in the short scope, because I've always had like a democratic viewpoint and I see the short term. And when Trump did stuff against the environment, did stuff pro-coal, did stuff pro-oil, I was like, dude, how could this guy be fucking good?
Yeah.
But I can very vaguely like toss out there a possibility of like, maybe I don't understand how that plays into these other pieces that are necessary for a far out, like 40 years in the future thing. Maybe I just don't know enough about these topics because I know nothing about these topics. But the face value thing is like, fuck Trump.
Right, exactly. and that's it. But the thing is, you can do that with any policy.
Yes, but
you can do that in any situation where it's like, okay, you're pulling environmental shit, right?
Sorry.
What? That is
Sorry.
true. Here, elves in my ears. All right. But we don't have to go into. I mean, maybe it's like healthy to have a debate in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah. But my understanding of it is, it's like regulation is good when it's regulating the people who need regulating. Let's say that, right? So there are a lot of
Okay, all right. I had to piece that one together, but I get what you're saying there. Okay.
Right? Like there are a lot of policies that he pulled back that hurt average people, that hurt like average mom and pop shop businesses, right? That basically made it impossible for you as a normal person to go out there and be like, hey, I have this passion, I want to start a business. Well, here's the fucking massive bureaucracy that you have to get through to actually make that happen. And if you in the highly regulated world, it's like you have to get through paperwork after paperwork after paperwork after fee after tax after fee after tax. And so you need a massive like sum of money just to even consider starting a business, just to even consider like being able to function lawfully, right? And a lot of the regulations that he was pulling, it's not like this is just my opinion. I haven't fully researched it completely, but a lot of the stuff that he was pulling, people were happy because it benefited those people. It benefited like small mom and pop guys that were like trying to move forward and create some form of wealth, which would, employ people, which would help more people. And all of the really big businesses, it was almost like arbitrary regulations where it was like it said you can't do X or Y to the environment, but tucked in there was all this other bullshit that made it impossible for small businesses to function.
Yeah, and I think this goes back into the space of like, I think you touched upon a really good point that more people need to like notice. You broke it down really well where you were saying like Democrats are almost like short-sighted, progressive, and the conservative viewpoint is like so far-sighted, but who gives a fuck about right now kind of thing. Yeah. And that's like the whole balanced perception of these things is like when Trump's doing stuff, it might be good in the future, but right now it's so infuriating to the other,
right? To
the liberal side that it's like,
yeah,
it makes things impossible to move forward.
Right. And in the regulation thing is like okay, sure. So sure, these businesses are regulated from doing these bad practices with the environment when a majority of them find out ways to get around that anyway, and just that entire line of paperwork and bureaucracy is just backing up our economy and hurting the average person. So that's why people were like, yes, like do these things. But then you take, an incredibly biased media and it's like, Trump wants us to dump 10 million pounds of oil into the ocean. It's like, no, that no, like honestly, you're missing a very large portion of the pie here and what he's trying to do.
We discussed this a little bit earlier off camera where I actually came back into like a central ground.
Yeah.
Not from seeing things on the news or anything about Trump. It was that everything I had heard about Trump was just bad. Even when I was doing like research, it was like Trump bad. And then I started like talking to people who took their information from other places and they were like, have you heard about like his stance against China, or have you heard about his small business like pro action? And I'm like, no. What do you mean? And then they start explaining these things a little bit about it to me, and I'm like, okay, let me go check this. I go and check it, and it's like, oh fuck, that's actually a really good plan. And the damning thing about this is that I went around, and it was like no one knew about it. The media wasn't covering any of the positive stuff about it, which made me like
zero.
Like turn and look at my side and be like, okay, we might have our blinders on right now. Because if these things are actually happening, what else is happening, and what are you doing that I'm not seeing?
Right, exactly.
Which are all questions we should always be asking about every group we are in.
Yes, I agree, and that's like that's part of the like I don't agree with everything that Trump does. I don't think like first of all I don't know everything that he's done. Like I haven't followed it so closely that I can be like, well, yeah, in this year on this day he signed this thing. Like I don't know, I don't really know. I do know that in the beginning of his presidency, I started seeing a lot of bad shit, and I hated him hardcore. Like I was like, this guy's a fucking idiot. He's like, he's a billionaire. Like, what? He's got to be a part of these people, you know? Because I've always been in the conspiracy minded. Like, if you're up in those upper echelons of society, like you have to be connected to some badness.
You're absolutely evil.
Like you're absolutely evil. You
Also,
have to be connected to some bullshit.
Just connecting real quick. That's also a money spirituality block, and why a lot of us don't get what we think we should be getting.
Right, because we think that the like,
money inherently creates evil.
Right,
which isn't true.
Yeah, for sure.
Even though Trump still might be a douchebag.
Yeah, in a lot of ways he probably is. That's the thing. He probably is in a lot of ways. But there's a lot more nuance to it than what the heavy aspects of the media are. What?
Sorry. Did I distract you?
Yes. Yes. But anyway, enough about the Trump stuff. You guys can probably understand.
The government. You get it.
You can understand where I'm coming from. There's a lot more to the story than what a lot of people understand.
And there's a lot more that we don't understand.
For sure. And if you just like strictly hate him because you think that he's a racist and you think this is, I implore you, just like
go to the other side.
Go to the
like
other
2
side.
Days.
Like just jump over to the other side. Like meander around a little bit. Look at some things.
You are definitely going to like disagree, but I want you to just think about like if you feel like a rush of like hate or emotion or something like that, just reading something, calm yourself down and just try to like remove that emotion or calm it down, well it down, and just read the information until you don't feel that anymore. Because we are being conditioned to emotionally respond to the information that's out there right now. If you disagree with something, you're like, ah, and if you agree with something, you're like, yeah, like, share. And it's like with vindication. And it's like you should not be accepting any information if your emotion's like that. Yeah. Because they are literally trying to trigger you to get the responses that they are getting.
For sure.
All of the information is just information. You don't have to accept it just because you're learning about it.
Definitely. But we like went on a massive tangent there.
We got a little bit Trumpy
massive
about
tangent.
that.
But the thing is, though, I feel like that's important because that's a very that's like the linchpin of the entire
system,
left system. It's basically like hate Trump, hate Republicans, like, and that's that.
Yeah, I've actually I mean, I guess we're still on the tangent, but I have a friend who I love this guy on Facebook. I don't support Trump, but he does. But he started doing some very intelligent posts where he's like going to all of his friends, and he posted it like 2 or 3 times where he was like, anybody who supports Joe Biden, I would genuinely like to hear why you support Joe Biden, his policies, his past history, whatever. The only condition is you don't get to reference Trump. And no one responded.
You can't.
No one has anything to say good about Biden without saying he's better than Trump. We just got to get Trump out of there.
Yeah.
Biden is not a good candidate. No one thinks he's a good candidate. I don't even think the Democrats think he's a good candidate.
No, they don't. I mean, it goes to show 10,000 fucking viewers on the DNC, the Democratic National Convention. And that just goes to show it's like that brings me back to the beginning of what we were talking about, is that there is a complete disconnect on the political left side of like, hey, this is politics that's happening. Like,
it's not emotion. It's not spirituality. It's none of the things that you're connecting to, like the goodness in the world. It is literally politics.
Yeah.
You keep asking, like, why do we keep having to choose between 2 clowns? Stop going to the fucking circus.
Yeah. Literally.
You keep buying tickets to this shit and being like, I want to see the elephants. Why we got all these clowns? Stop going.
Yeah. Stop going to the fucking circus.
Okay, so next tangent.
But DNC, basically, in a nutshell, it was an absolute joke. It was nothing of substance. There was zero information about policy. There was zero information about what they were going to do about the problems that we have.
It sounded like a lot of emotional triggering.
It was just all like, I'm this very disenfranchised person and I need the help of these people.
The lines I kept on hearing were, I believe in love, not hate. I believe in goodness, not evil.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Okay.
okay, what the fuck does that mean?
What
you
you mean?
believe in the goodness of touching little children's dicks and grabbing children from their parents and touching them all over the place until they look real uncomfortable?
Right.
That's your goodness?
Yeah.
Good and evil are perspectives of individuals.
Mm-hmm.
You can think certain things are really good and they're literally like devil shit.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. Disconnect. They don't think it's politics anymore, man.
No, they
don't
think it's humanity.
They think it's humanity and morals. And it's like, no, it's all about decision making and how we run our country. And those things have repercussions, sure. But just because you think it should be done this way doesn't mean that if we do it that way, that there's not going to be repercussions that you don't understand that the other side might understand. And that goes for both parties. That goes for both people. So it's just this complete lack of like, this is policy, this is what we should be doing, and it's all about it's all about like the other side is Satan incarnate, and if we don't do something about it, the world is going to explode in nuclear warfare, and like that's that. Like there's no questions. That's all it is. So and that's just so wrong. It's just so absolutely wrong. But yeah, Democratic National Convention deal was a joke. There was no policy. It was purely emotional.
Book closed.
Yes.
Because I did want to talk about Shadowgate a little bit.
Yeah, Shadowgate for sure.
So you give some backstory on the Shadowgate stuff because you know more about like how it came into being. I only heard about Shadowgate because of what you came across first. Mm-hmm. That like Millie got arrested. Yeah.
Okay. So there's actually been a bunch of new developments because obviously I watch Alex Jones on a regular basis now.
Yeah.
Just because, believe it or not, as crazy as that motherfucker is, like, he's the only person, like, at this point in time that I can watch that seems like he's, like, willing to look at what's actually happening and isn't, like,
I mean, he gives Trump shit sometimes.
Yeah, all the time. He gives Trump shit all the time.
Like, that's the only thing we're honestly looking for from our news sources anymore is, like, we want to hear them, like, call bullshit on the Democrats, and we want to hear them call bullshit on the Republicans.
Yes.
That's the only place of value to get information. And the only person that's doing that
fucking
is Alex Jones.
It's like, man, it's like first of all,
ridiculous.
mainstream media, you motherfuckers, like you did this. You literally turned the guy, the gay frog man.
You drove us into his arms.
Literally directly. Like you did. If I could go to CNN or MSNBC or Fox News and not feel like I was being fucking brainwashed and programmed with bullshit, okay. Like
I would do it.
I would do it, but you know what? That's just not the case.
I used to watch CNN and MNNB.
MSN.
That's the one.
BC.
Yeah, that's the one. I used to watch those two, and when I flipped over to Fox, I'd be like, "Oh, these people are so fucking dumb."
Yeah,
but
I watch both now. Like,
Yeah.
like every once in a while, I'll pull up both, and I'll just be like,
I see the articles from it.
yeah. And the thing is, Fox News feels closer to what I believe is happening. And like the repercussions, but the way that they present it is
you can feel like
there's a twist there.
Yeah, you can feel that they're like feeding into like your buried beliefs that you like want to just be like, yeah, these are all true.
Yeah,
kind
like,
of stuff. They're feeding it.
Those social justice warriors.
Yeah.
We should just go shoot them all.
And that's just as toxic as the other side.
Right, exactly. You can feel that there's that twist there where it's like they're trying to.
You gotta feel your way
trying to
through
push
this
that.
shit because, like, for whatever you believe, if you believe in like in God or like Jesus or in the Hindu texts or the Buddhist texts or the Islamic texts, whatever.
No, man, it's all bullshit. When you die, it's just endless darkness, and that's it.
That's depressing as fuck.
I'm sorry. I have to distract you sometimes.
Something inside of you that can smell the bullshit. Mm-hmm. And you have to get through your emotions before you can even start sniffing.
Yes.
Because it's always going to be like, there's an inner version of you that can tell like if someone's trying to manipulate you.
Yeah.
But you have to be able to listen to it.
For sure.
Oh, but Shadowgate.
Shadowgate, yeah.
Yeah. Tangents, man. They're getting us.
Right. That's okay. Hey, it's content. It's content. We're all right.
Content.
We're putting out content. We're doing just fine. So Shadowgate is the basis of Shadowgate is it's basically Millie Weaver used to be a contractor for InfoWars and Alex Jones, and they had kind of they would do their own thing. Just like journalists, basically, like putting together documentaries and articles and whatever. But,
feeding information.
Right, but Millie Weaver and her husband were just contractors. They didn't actually work at InfoWars, at the studio. They just, like, every once in a while, Alex was like, hey, here's some funding. You do good stuff. Like, we'll, like, send us some of the stuff you got. But primarily, they did their own thing. And so they put together this Shadowgate documentary. And Millie ended up like randomly getting arrested on the day that she was uploading it,
Which is the reason that I became interested in it.
Yeah, but a whole bunch of new stuff that Alex Jones actually recently in the past couple days like completely cut ties with Millie Weaver and stuff, and was like I can't be a part of it anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What happened?
So I guess what had happened was so Millie and her husband and the people that they were working for, they started getting intermingled and tangled up in the intelligence community.
Yeah. I mean, they were, like, I watched Shadowgate, and they were working with quite a few different intelligence agents.
There was a few insiders, whistleblowers, right, that came out, but there were other people that they were working with that were supposedly defectors, who might not have actually defected, and were feeding them some
twisted info.
Not that the Shadowgate documentary itself didn't have a lot of really good info in it, because it definitely did. But there's a whole aspect that they like basically implicated Roger Stone in things. And Alex was saying that it like he just couldn't work with her anymore because he felt that like
too many compromised
pieces, and had to disconnect ties from her.
Interesting.
And that probably a very large portion of her getting arrested, he thinks that she pushed further than the people she was working with wanted her to. Basically, where she was trying to be a good person, like where she was like, hey, like I want to release like this film and all of the stuff in it, I want to be as legit as possible. But the people that she was working with, insiders, were trying to kind of pull strings as to what could or couldn't go in there, and she like went behind their back and like did stuff anyway, and they got pissed at her, and then
ratted,
and then all of a sudden she's arrested, and Alex was just like, can't be a part of that anymore. Like, I'm just going to be here doing my thing. I don't work with the intelligence community, none of that, and that's the reason why. So
interesting.
Because there's people out there that try to infiltrate alternative news networks, basically. Like, they're like, oh, hey, I'm a whistleblower. Ha ha ha. I'm a whistleblower. Come and get information from me. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, like, they're controlling your entire fucking operation, basically. So Alex has always, from what he said, has completely been like, I'm not there. I'm literally just taking news stories from public information, and I'm just making my own conclusions. I'm not working with any intelligence agencies because it's a can of worms he doesn't want to open. And Millie decided to open that can of worms.
And got worm juice all
over the place, and ended up being arrested, and her kids nearly taken away from her. And
Jesus.
A lot of shit. So
Shadowgate itself wasn't that like revolutionary.
No.
Like when I, like going through it, I just giving it time of day, entertaining the prospect. It's not that crazy. Like that there's like ShadowNet as a whole is supposed to be like a backdoor to all of this government information and all of these different like ways of like directing and controlling how the public sees things, which isn't crazy. Like like you have to understand that's already being active, and Shadowgate itself is a real thing. Like it's an actual project that does exist. That's not like like it's the only parts, because I immediately after watching it, I went through and I started like reading the mainstream reviews about it, about how it's just like bullshit and how it's just like Trump fodder and all this. Mm-hmm. And the things that I kept seeing was just connected to how it supported like Trump. Mm-hmm. They weren't arguing that ShadowNet has all this power to be able to like sway the masses and to like change the way government runs and to
psychologically manipulate the population.
They
of
weren't
people.
arguing any of that. All of the reviews about it were like, this is just like what they're saying about Trump is wrong. What they're saying about these political people is wrong. Like they're just making stuff up. They don't have the sources to back up these claims. And it's like, what about the shit about ShadowNet? Does anybody want to argue that? No? No one wants to make any allegations against that ShadowNet exists and that they're actually running this on the people and the world? No? Okay, I guess we're all just going to gloss over that. They made it a political thing. Like, Shadowgate is just about Trump. Like, I wish Millie wouldn't have made it, like, even touch Trump. Because then it just would have went through and it would have been like, oh, yeah, Shadowgate exists. Everyone would be like, yep, sure does.
Shadowgate exists.
Totally does.
Yep or dangy. Yeah, but the thing is, the most blatant, I think, use of it is the use against Trump with it. Like, as you can see from the manipulation of people.
It's possible.
Whereas, like, he's like basically...
I didn't go and validate any of the claims that they made.
The general population... The general population's hatred towards Trump is a result of, like, some type of psychological warfare, basically.
I do think a lot of the Trump hate has been trumped up.
Yeah, definitely.
So funny.
Super funny. But and that's it. That's the basis of Shadowgate is basically like there are government operations that use information and the internet to intelligently cater the information that every individual sees to a specific outcome, basically. And it's a predetermined outcome.
And this is a program.
It's an actual program.
Yeah, they
Correct.
actually have this, and it's been developed originally for, and this is another premise that came from ShadowNet that has not been debated, is that it came from us developing it to use it in other countries, and then these operatives that developed it in other countries came back, and they were like, oh shit, y'all are using this in America? And they're like, shh, don't tell anybody. It's not happening.
Or even if you do tell anybody, they're not going to believe you.
And you're going to commit suicide.
Yeah, right. Or get arrested and get your children taken from you. That too. But yeah, that's the whole Shadowgate thing is a whole very odd situation that happened, because it seemed like it would have been like one of those pandemic documentaries where it was just like all of a sudden it got blasted everywhere, and it was like everyone's like, look it, but just the circumstances surrounding it were so odd. And what happened to Millie and the process of uploading and like all that crazy shit was just like,
it kind of had the legs swept out from under it before it could get going.
Right, exactly. It's just a very odd situation,
which is suspect in itself.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what I don't know.
I mean, maybe it's coincidental that the day she was uploading it, she got arrested. Like maybe it's coincidence. But that's a weird coincidence.
It's a hell of a coincidence, man. Yeah. That's the thing about all of these things that we talk about. And it's like, how...
Someone's using the hallway.
Oh.
The first time I've ever seen and heard anybody use the hallway.
People don't use the hallway very often. Lost my train of thought, what I was saying. Oh, that's the... that's the whole thing about the... nope, train's gone. Train is chewed.
Bet you wish you had some alpha brain.
I bet you I do. I do wish that. What else? There was other things that we wanted to get into of similar substance. I don't remember exactly what they were. So we covered
the DNC and Shadowgate, and we went on tangents about Trump and politics. I don't know if there was much more we wanted to cover in this specific podcast.
Yeah. I mean,
We can leave it.
we can leave it.
I'm
That
okay
can be
with that.
I'm okay with that.
The next
too.
one, I intend to have another research podcast. So if you like having things on screen, y'all, next one I'll have some juicy nuggets.
Yeah, where we actually go through information that's not just like vomited out of our brains.
Right. Because obviously our brains are not very good at vomiting.
No, for sure. It's like I do enough research to create a idea in my head or an image of my head of what I think the world looks like, but I don't do enough to the point where I can be like, oh yeah, this thing happened at this day, at this time.
Let me paint your world for you. No, we're having enough trouble just piecing ours together.
Right. Where it's like, and that's about as much as I can handle, honestly.
Yeah, and the pieces change so quickly, and we find pieces that are like, oh, that was good, but now I'm seeing it's rotten. Toss that one out.
Yeah, right. I mean, hey, we're just right here with you guys trying to figure out what in the absolute freaking frick is going on in the world.
It used to be easier. It used to be easier to figure out what the fuck was going on. It was like, oh yeah, that's a corrupt operative.
Pick up the newspaper and you read and you're like, oh, that's crazy. This thing happened yesterday, and everybody agrees. That's crazy. That thing happened yesterday.
I think he's talking about when he was actually like living in the 50s or something. I think this weird ass time traveler over here.
Yeah.
Captain America.
For sure.
Traveled back to read newspapers and live in a simpler time.
Yep. Exactly. But anyway, might have been a convoluted conversation, whatever. I enjoyed it. If you guys
always enjoy it.
If you guys have any suggestions,
things you'd like us to look into,
agreements, disagreements with things we've talked about and said, anything you want us to get into, other subjects you want us to look into, like definitely go in the comments, because I like suggestions. I like like, hey, our viewers want us to cover things like this, and to look into these things and then have conversations about them. Like, we're not here to be like a classroom or anything. It's just like, hey, let's look at some stuff and contemplate what it means about the world.
Yeah, the whole premise of this podcast is to entertain an idea without accepting it. Make your judgments after you've considered all the information.
Correct. But
on that note,
let's get out of here and go stand in the rain.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeehaw.
All right, folks. We will see you in the next video.
Bye-bye.